question is, can you be happy while suffering? One piece of information that came from our week's discussions was Sean Anker's TED Talk. And here's two quotes from Sean Anker. He said, 90% of your happiness comes from the way your brain processes the world. He also said, only 25% of a person's job success is measured by IQ. 75% is measured by a person's optimism level or ability to see stress as a challenge and not a threat. So basically, he's saying that our happiness is based on our own interpretation. He talks about the idea of a lens within our mind. So it's that lens in which we see things. Society's interpretation on happiness is based on this lens in which they see happiness through. Anker says that if a person's lens or interpretation on happiness is changed, they will begin to see things in a more positive light. So he's just saying, if you can change a person's interpretation of what they view situations, then you can change the way that they view the situations into a more positive way. Just as he quoted, if a person views stress as a challenge and not in the typical overwhelming way, the person will achieve more, just as they said with the job success. Instead of society viewing happiness as success, which is somewhere in the future, like you go to school, you have to get good grades in order to get a job and to be successful and get a promotion. Have them look at their present success. Changing the view on happiness to a positive view causes the happiness advantage, which Anker talks about. Your brain works better on positive than on negative and neutral. Your intelligence rises, your creativity rises, etc. My opinion on Sean Anker's TED Talk, I 100% agree with Sean Anker's idea on happiness. A person's happiness depends on their interpretations throughout the world. In the face of suffering, do they find meaning, and in that meaning, do they find positivity? I also agree with his idea that a person's happiness cannot be determined based on their external world. Just because a person is rich does not mean they are happy. It all depends on their interpretation of life. Just as he said in the Harvard example, his friends came to see his school. They saw the cafeteria. It looked like Hogwarts cafeteria. And they said, how can a person here that goes to Harvard experience this and not be happy? It doesn't depend on their external world, like, oh, they go to a good school, they should be happy. It depends on how they interpret that. And just as he said, when he was studying people at Harvard, they didn't focus on the privilege of being there. They focused on the stress and all that. If happiness is living in accord with human nature, can humans be happy even when going through a life event that causes suffering? I believe humans can be happy even when suffering. Suffering is a natural part of life. However, how you handle and interpret your suffering will define your happiness. Here are two quotes that I like to think about when I'm struggling or experience suffering. Struggle builds character, and a cliche one, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.